Welcome back, everybody, to our Day of Giving Back. We are so fortunate this year to have some of the giants of the Xaverian community joining us, not in person, but via Zoom today. And I cannot thank everybody enough for joining us today. I know that you've all been out of the classroom now in many ways for some time, so doing this is probably not a regular occurrence. But I just wanted to introduce today our retired faculty and our two retiring soon-to-be retiring faculty. So we have with us today Brother Paul Feeney. Brother Paul, if you want to say hello.
Hi there.
We have Cindy Shannon from our theology department. Cindy. Jim Lewis from our world languages department, I guess we call it now, and Jim will be retiring at the end of this year. We do not have Maureen. We have Mike Higgins on the call. Mike is also a former theology teacher. We have Ron Erickson coming to us from the ice arena today, former computer science teacher. Jim Glinsky coming to us from his library, it looks like, former history teacher. Paula Duddy, soon to be retiring as our fine arts former department chair and fine arts teacher. And Phil Penza, a veteran of our history department. So thank you all for joining us today. I'm sure this is getting a lot of traction right now. And again, we encourage all of our alumni that are joining us from social media now to share any comments you have about any of these giants, any stories. We will then share some of those stories with the folks joining us today on the call. And I'm sure you'll all get a kick out of that as you read through some of these. But yes, today we do have the ability to welcome in Jim Lewis and Paula Duddy unofficially to this great group. So is there anything to start off our discussion today? Is there anything that all of you as retired faculty have to mention about what it's like to be retired? Mike, you're laughing a little bit there.
Well, it's certainly very different. You're used to the hustle bustle of kids every day and being in there. Then all of a sudden it becomes quiet. But it does match up with the pandemic. It was kind of unusual that, at least for some of those that, I guess everyone's retired for a little while except for the two that are retiring this year. But all of a sudden it was just so quiet this last year. We couldn't even, for myself, I travel to see family. I have kids in New Jersey, Oklahoma, and California, and all of a sudden that stopped. So that was my main activity. I did sneak out for golf, however, because it's a social distancing sport. So I was able to do that. But to go from that to from the classroom, it was a big shock in a way.
And tell, I think you mentioned before we started the call today, you golfed with some former and some retired faculty as well, right?
What's that?
You've seen and golfed with some retired faculty.
I have, yeah. My doctor.
And those would be
Jim Glinsky and Bob McCready. Ron was playing with us before, but I think he's semi-retired from the golf. I'm not sure. Maybe he's gone over to hockey now. So I've had experience with that. And the doctor says I should go out once a week and play golf. That's what I tell my wife every week.
Brother Paul, you're the first of this group to have unofficially, I know you've retired, but you've still been extremely active in so many different facets of life at St. John's and throughout the community. But what was it like? I mean, when you were, certainly for a Xaverian brother too, that must be interesting.
What has it been like to retire?
Yes.
Well, the last time I taught was in 1996, so that's 25 years ago. So I haven't been in a classroom for 25 years. And I retired, although I gave up teaching in 1996 and took a job with the Catholic School Office in Boston, I stayed there until the year 2000. When the superintendent left, I left with her. And I moved here to St. John's in Shrewsbury, where I first started my teaching career back in 1956. I was here for 5 years before I moved on to Keith Academy and then to Xaverian Brothers High School. So I've been away from the classroom for 25 years. I have kept my hand in teaching, however, at least up until 10 years ago. I was teaching members of the permanent diaconate for the Archdiocese of Boston. I started that back in 1973, I believe it was. and I gave it up in around 2011 or 2012. So a span of 37 years teaching in the diaconate program. In fact, I got an email from Ray Spadoni, class of 78, just today, saying, let's get together for a picnic. It was so good to hear him. I taught him at Xaverian, and I also taught him in the diaconate program. So what I do now is I do a Bible study at St. Anne's in Shrewsbury, and we've had to suspend it for a year. But I started with a Lenten religious documentary series. We did two documentaries, and then we had to stop. So I've gone back to church. I haven't been to church in a year physically. So I went this past Sunday, and some of the parishioners says, "Are we going to do the documentaries again?" I said, "Yes, I'll do that." So I do that. And I've been doing an annual retreat for permanent deacons for about 25 years. We didn't do one this year, but they asked me if I could do another one. At 88, I'm not in the greatest of shape. Have some difficulties with my eyes. I have macular degeneration in both eyes, and I have arthritis in my kneecaps and my ankles. Other than that, I'm good.
Well, I'll tell you, you and all of the retirees, you all look great, and I think teaching students helps keep you young at heart. So thank you for that. And really, I want to open this up right now. I mean, to the question that brings, I think, a lot of our alumni back on to view this program today is, share some of your memorable experiences with one another and in the classroom. I mean, you've all worked together in different capacities. What are some stories that just jump out at you from working with students? And certainly feel free to call out a few students here too, a few alums that you might have given a hard time back in the day, for sure.
I have a unique perspective on my career because I started at Xaverian when I was 22 years old. I was 1 year out of college, and I've stayed there for 48 years, and now I'm 70 years old. So my entire life has been really wrapped around Xaverian Brothers High School. My two sons graduated from there, Greg in 95 and Chris in 02. And so it's been a remarkable journey for me. When I think back on my career at Xaverian and the people that have influenced me in a great way, my mind always goes back to the brothers. And I did recently speak to the graduating class this year at Xaverian. And to do a little research on it, I went back to my first yearbook from Xaverian, which would have been the spring of '74. And I've gotten a yearbook every year, so in a few months I'll have my 48th yearbook on the shelf in my study here. And it's amazing how often I refer to them when I want to look up a kid or see what he looked like if I hear a name. Oftentimes, unfortunately, it's for an obit, but we don't want to dwell on that. But when we have students that we've taught that are in their 60s now, it's marking the passage of time. Anyway, my thoughts go immediately to the brothers. And I have tried over the course of at least the last 10 or 15 years to share as many stories of the brothers as I can, to try to keep that sense of mission and rootedness in the original brothers that put this all together for us. And I think back to Brother Jim Smith and Brother Paul and Brother Jeremiah and Brother Mel, of course. I've told the story of Brother Mel throwing a can of water over the stall in the bathroom to douse a blazing fire, which obviously was a student smoking. And if any of you out there today were one of those that were caught under Brother Mel's pail, then you deserved a good dousing, and I hope you've quit smoking cigarettes. But the stories just go on great. And Brother Joe Gerard, he'd see me every day, and he'd practice his little German on me and say, "Guten Tag, Herr General, how are the men? Do they have cigarettes and booze?" And, he just cracked me up. And all of those great men, there were 27 brothers there when I started in '73. This year, unfortunately, for the first time in the 58-year history of Xaverian Brothers High School, there is not one brother in the building. We have one just 100 yards down the street, but, he comes up once in a while, but he's certainly enjoying his walks and taking his leisure time seriously. And so Brother Joe Palika obviously was the last one to go. And Brother Dan obviously being elected up as the leader of all. And the unfortunate passing of Brother Ray, of course, the last three that graced our hallways. But I'll always be grateful to them. Brother Richard Mays, my first mentor, a French teacher, and he really set me on my way. So those are the people I think of. And obviously everybody on this page here, I think of you all the time and all the fun conversations we shared down in the faculty dining room. And of course, Cindy and I had a carpool, and we drove the kids to school together from out in Metro West region for many, many years. And so I'll pass the mic along.
Well, speaking of brothers, Jim and Phil, and I don't know, Mike Higgins, was Brother Drinan headmaster or still there when you were hired?
I did my interview with him. Then he didn't.
How long was your interview?
Well, they had a couple of. I think Brother Cook was there, and Brother Paul might have been there too.
Because Brother Drinan was famous for like the 30-second interview, and he hired, luckily, a lot of great people. Basically, I walked in the office, and the first time I'd set foot in a Catholic school, aside from basketball games in Fitchburg, Massachusetts at Notre Dame. And he said, "Can you teach history?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, we'll see you in September." That's after I got through the cloud of smoke from his desk and figured out who he was. But he hired some great teachers that way. And there were a few duds, but those of us who stayed, I think we appreciated that approach, certainly compared to today. I know when I was a chairperson towards the end, we had like 5 sets of interviews, and I think it became kind of a contest to see which applicant could last through the process. But that's my memory of Brother Drinan, and certainly I agree with Jim. The old brothers were brothers that were there when I was there. They were outstanding human beings.
Yeah, I remember Bill Drinan at my interview. I had no idea what I was doing, and
that didn't change.
I know it. And so he said, "Phil, why don't you just try it for a year, see what happens?" I said, "Sure, brother. Okay, I'll give it a shot." And of course, 44 years later, I left. But yeah, he was a remarkable person, and I look back on it, and Brother Paul, obviously, who goes way back with me, and we can go on and on. But yeah, Brother Mel, who helped me a great deal, and yeah, probably one of the great influences in my life was Brother Bede. And, Bede had a profound effect on a lot of people who graduated during my time, the dinosaur group. And, we just had tremendous respect. And I'm sure for many of us, that's why we stayed on as long teaching there, because of what was inculcated to us in those years. So, then Charlie McNamee was my mentor. And I couldn't have had a better mentor. So I really respect the school. I respect the brothers. And, obviously it's a continuing process. Even without the brothers there, I know that the younger teachers that are there now are carrying on that tradition. So, and of course, my son graduated from there too, like Jim's. And, he's going on to do pretty good things. So, yeah. Good place.
Mike or Ron or Cindy, you guys are in that kind of, you're the youngins in this group, I guess I would say. What are your perspectives on life at Xaverian and, your experience and working with some of the greats?
Well, I wasn't there as long as some of you, so I didn't get to know all the brothers, but Brother Dan made a huge impact on me. I really enjoyed him and got to the point where I could, stop by and talk with him, whether it was about an issue or just some ideas. And I really appreciated that. And he's just such a phenomenal leader. Just incredible. And it really meant a lot to me. And Brother Ray, God bless him, at first, I really did not know what to do about him, because he would often come up to the theology department and have his opinions about what should be happening. And I really didn't know what to make of that. But as time went on, same thing. I would just stop by his office. Sometimes it was about a student that was having troubles or whatever. And again, we became great friends. And I was so fortunate to stop by after I had retired. And Brother Ray was sick, clearly sick at that point, but he was still showing up some at the school. And I feel really blessed to have had quite a long last conversation with him. And again, that sticks in my memory as such a powerful memory of not just him, but of the whole school and the dedication that all the brothers had. Now, I just have to tell you, I retired, and it was the right time for me, and I was very happy. But if anybody in Vermont that I happened to meet would ask me, what did I do? They could not stop me from talking. And I would tell them all about Xaverian. And almost every time they'd say, look at that smile on your face. I would just start glowing when I talked about Xaverian, because it has meant so much to me. And it's just such a phenomenal school. I've taught at 5 different schools, and nothing of the other 4 compared with Xaverian. So it's been my privilege, and I'm glad to be back with some of you all today.
Ron and Mike, any perspectives?
Well, I wanted to say something about Brother Cook. As I mentioned, when I was hired, Brother Dryden was there, but it was more of a handoff to Brother Cook. And once I got to know him, I was just amazed. And I'm sure there are other brothers did things similar, but I didn't have the background Phil and some of the others had, that saw some of the brothers when the school was more filled with them. But what Brother Cook did was just, just amazed me that, he did the flower garden in the middle of the a courtyard. He did the musicals, the theater. He was headmaster. He did reaching out to the alumni and bringing money into the school and so on. He did like 4 or 5 different jobs, and just baffles me what he was able to do. And then everything changed with Brother Dan. He brought us into the modern era. I don't think you could do Brother Cook's way, the way we have school now. One person just can't do that. Back in the old days, I think it worked, but it wasn't going to work in the modern era. And Jim, you're evidence of that. There was no advancement team and all that stuff. I mean, it's really changed and helped the schools to stay alive. Brother Dan came at just the right time for that, so it worked out well.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on that. So coming from the public school, 35 years in public school, and then I was assigned first-year teacher under Jim Lewis in the afternoon, and I was very impressed. I mean, the culture at the school it's amazingly respectful, and I know that earlier times, like Phil, and Brother, you were there for times when the school was in flux and was changing. But boy, when I came in 2001, I mean, it was a fine tuned machine. I mean, it was amazing. The bar was set so high. The respect, the culture of the school was just amazing. But I just want to add a comment that's a little different. Okay, so I'm not retired. I'm working at a hockey rink. I'm the general manager of this rink, and I'm in charge of hiring and training and selling ice and everything else. And let me tell you, the skills that we all have as teachers are worth their weight in gold. You have no idea how talented you are. I mean, the skills are amazing. So the ability to be organized, like at the top 1% level, I mean, that's just, you can't survive in teaching if you don't have those organizational skills. The second thing is the ability to have to change on the fly instantly. So that skill is something that so many people just, they don't know what to do, when they can't go to a plan B. I mean, you can all go to a plan B, C, D, and E if you have to, because you've just done it so many times. And the other thing is like in training people. So I have Zamboni drivers and cleaners and everything else. And I know how to explain to them what their job is and how they need to do it and hold them responsible and fire them if I have to. I've probably fired about 8 people since I've been there. But I mean, the point that I'm trying to make is the skills that we have as teachers. I think that they're underestimated many times by teachers. Your skill set for all the things that I touched on is in that very top 1%. You would all be very successful in the private sector.
And Ron, that's a great segue back. I think, Brother Paul, of the blue sky mentality that you shared back a number of years ago in the 50th anniversary video, the blue sky moments that, our Xaverian's first principal, if I'm correct, was a big fan of. Can you talk about that? The vision that he had, that you guys had as the brothers when you founded Xaverian?
Brother Marcellus. Yes, Brother Marcellus was quite a guy. He was a genius, really. He built his own computers, television sets. When he left Xaverian, he worked for the Diocese of Brooklyn and was in their Catholic TV set up down there. He was always planning things. He always had a vision of things. I came across some stuff. I've been throwing stuff away. And one of the things I came across was a day he held for the religious in the area for Vatican II. Vatican II was winding down, and he got all the people in the area, all the seminary professors and all the experts to come to Xaverian for a day and give a workshop on what was happening in Vatican II. He also ran a day for interracial understanding. I remember I was on a panel with Mel King, and that was kind of an overpowering experience, shall I say. But they had all the big figures in Boston, the black leaders in Boston, coming to Xaverian and running a workshop out there. He decided that we ought to do something about teenage drinking. So one of the things he did was get some experts in to talk about controlled drinking. They weren't from the Ban the Booze Society. They wanted to teach the kids to drink responsibly. But all these kinds of things popped into his head, and he said, "Chum," he always called people chum. Chum, he'd say, "This is a blue sky project. We're going to go for it." And in those days, we had to get the school off the ground. And thank God we had people like Phil Penzer and his classmates, the first couple of classes, first 3 or 4 classes. They really kind of got the school off in a great setting. And 50 years later, I mean, it's superb. I want to say just one other thing. Everybody's been saying everything about the brothers. One of the great joys that I had was the lay teachers. I loved Charlie Duddy. Paula, your husband was just a gem. And he was one of the first faculty members at Xaverian. Yeah. Probably in the first group. And our relationship was just great over the years. I think at Charlie McNamee, we taught back to back, classroom to classroom for years. And he was such a dear friend. I think of Alex Salaki and my friendship with him. Gary Bowers, I mean, he was my student, and then he was my colleague, and so many others on the faculty were former students and now our colleagues. How can I forget Jim McCarthy? As Joe Girard used to say, I'll take one Jim McCarthy over 5 excellent teachers. And that was quite a compliment. And then, of course, Byron and Claire. I mean, Joe Girard and I would go out practically every month with Byron and Claire to some little restaurant in Norwood or whatnot. It was just a social, a get together. I mean, all these wonderful friendships I had with lay teachers are just terrific memories.
Listen, can I interrupt? I have to introduce a special guest here that wants to say hello.
Oh wow!
Wow. Yeah, talk about couples teaching together.
Yeah, I heard Brian and Claire, they were wonderful people. I started at Xaverian when I was 22 years old, and Jim Lewis hired me and was one of my mentors. I had many, of course, Charlie McNamee being one too. But I just want to say, for those of you who knew me when I started at age 22, my new name is Nana.
Oh, good. I just want to tap into when I started at Xaverian, it was 1987. And Brother Paul, you were probably there. Brother Cook hired me. And it's like a love story. I just fell in love with the school. And it's sort of not only a love story, but a family story, because my husband was there. And yes, he began the year after the school opened, so that he shared all these stories of the brothers, some of whom Jim mentioned. And I kind of wrote down a few, and we were quite friendly with them. And so the memories for me really have a lot to do with the brothers who were there during that earlier period. And I think that the school it made a kind of a transition during the years I was there. There was a special transition that happened with the style, I think, that Brother Cook had. And then when Brother Dan came in, the style changed. But I remember of Brother Cook and Brother Ray, how good they were to me. I remember going in at Nassau. I went there to do my master's, and they came to my show. They just showed up at so many different things. And so I was always impressed by that. I always remember Brother Joe. My son Stephen and David graduated from the school. And my daughter Jennifer was always a big member of the school from when she was born, because my husband would remember her in the classes and all. And so I remember my son Stephen was given some outdoor work, and he loved working with Brother Joe Girard out in the landscaping. So I remember Brother Moran. My goodness, I tried to write them down. So many people who helped me out when I first started there. So it's a love story. And I thought about so much about it today. And I thought, wow, I really love all those students. I mean, there are some of them that are challenging, but I can't think. When I talk about Xaverian, I just brag about all the students. I mean, that it's like, where can you find students like that throughout the years? It isn't as if there is one segment. It's just throughout the years, these remarkable people. And I never thought that there would be a day when I would teach the sons of some of the people that I began teaching early on. And to me, that is just like so remarkable. But it's been a love story, really. I've loved every minute of it. I always have to credit Brother Cook. I mean, he opened all these doors to creativity. Oh, yeah, you want to do that? Sure. Okay. Yeah, we'll do that. And the same way, really, with Brother Dan. I remember a point at which the curriculum really had to meet the needs of the school, because things did change. when Brother Dan came in, and we had to make the school accommodate the curriculum to really meet the needs. And, they agreed to these different classes and to designing a program. It's been remarkable. I can't think of another place that probably would have happened. All I can think about is that it's very, very remarkable. And I do, in a special way, think of all the brothers, particularly hearing stories about them from early on, and also from this brother Marcellus. That always intrigued me to hear about him. And I remember my husband saying he would call people chum. And so there were always these really significant things that were part of their vernacular, whatever they passed along. It just sounded like everybody related to it and remembered it. And so those are things that will be carried on in the history. They will be.
Well, Paula, I don't think you could have said it best. I mean, and kudos to all of you, and in particular to Jim and Paula as you go through this exciting moment, for yourselves. I wanted to close, to our time together this afternoon by asking all of the retired faculty, give one point of advice to Jim and Paula as they start this new journey in their lives. And we'll start with Brother Paul.
One point of advice for whom?
For Paula and Jim.
Oh, enjoy your retirement and do not fail to come back to the school.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people retire from St. John's and we never see them again. And I don't know why. That to me, I don't know whether they feel they don't know people after a while, but come back whenever there's an opportunity and an invitation to come back to the school, or just drop in and say hello to people that you know and love. I think that would be my big advice to you. And congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
You're my favorites.
Any other advice from folks? Jim, you look like you were going to say something. Jim Blinsky.
Just keep on moving straight ahead. Do what you want. I love to travel. We did some traveling. Unfortunately, not this last year. We had a great trip to Morocco just before COVID. And I've done a lot of research and writing, two things I really love to do. I'm going to keep doing it.
Well,
yeah, I would say just enjoy yourself. Enjoy every minute. You're as busy as you want to be. I think one of the best things is sitting down with a second cup of coffee, reading the Boston Globe every morning, and not worrying about the bell ringing.
Yeah.
And now, Pat and I just became grandparents, so now it's a whole different perspective. So we get to enjoy that part of our lives as well. But Jim and Paula, we had some great times. Listen,
yeah,
enjoy your retirement. It's all that it's cracked up to be.
Oh, good.
I'm not sure I can give you any. I could give you some advice, but you don't need any advice because you're both such amazing people. But I just want to say, in the few years that I knew you, both of you are full of such joy and kindness. And I don't have to tell you to continue to spread that because I know you will. And it brings great joy to bring joy to others. So I know you'll have a wonderful time. But I have to agree with Phil, the grandkids. The grandkids are the best part of retirement.
Yeah,
Mike and Ron?
Yeah, I would just say it's like a whole new career. I mean, I was 33 when I came to Xaverian, so I had a life before Xaverian. Then I was there for 33, and I always said I'm going to have 33 more, but I kind of doubt that. But it's a whole new life, and there are some big perks with it. Sunday night, no worries about homework corrected, and the second cup of coffee, huge. Yeah, beautiful.
I agree with all that. I think the biggest thing you're going to find is the lack of a schedule. So you can make your own schedule. So for me, there were three things. There was the commute, which from Marshfield was kind of challenging. The dress code, I never minded it, but now, I mean, look at me. I mean, I've got jeans on or shorts. It's great. And that's when I go to my job too. And then, but the part is the discretionary time. You know, when you have control over your schedule, it is so liberating. I mean, and there's no schedule like a school schedule in terms of really buttoning you down. You know, you're literally Pavlov's dog on the bell schedule, you know. So enjoy the open schedule, you know, let it flow. You're gonna have a great time. Congratulations.
Well, on behalf of all of us that are here at the school right now, thank you so much for all you've done for Xaverian. I know, speaking from all of the current faculty and staff here, we truly appreciate each and every one of you and all that you've done to enhance the school, the effect you've had on all the students, including alums like myself. It truly is a testament to the school and the vision of Brother Marsalis to have all of you here today. And I'm sure he'd be looking down very excited to see this going on and the legacy of Xaverian and the brothers continuing. So thank you all for joining us today. And a special note to Paula and Jim. Congratulations again from all of us. I have no doubt the Xaverian community will continue to turn out to congratulate all of you in the days ahead. And we're probably at this point getting a ton of comments in with folks remembering all of you from your teaching days. So we'll be sure to, to share those as well. But again, thank you all for joining us today. And please join us later today.
Thanks,
for
Jim.
the rest of our Day Giving Back.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Good seeing you all.
Good to see everybody. Wow.
Yeah, everybody.
Bye.
Wow.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Yeah.